Stage 18, last stage for the breakaway, and then tomorrow back to the GC battle.
Can't wait.
I'd love to see how long it take you to go up some of these climbs tomorrow. We could do a live broadcast.
I could be the next Mr. Beast. You know, he counted to like 1 million or something. It would be as long as that probably. Welcome to the Roadman live podcast of the Tour de France Stage 18.
Today was one of the last chances for the breakaway, and it didn't disappoint. We had a massive break on clear, and then we had action and a housewife's favourite winning in the final. Before we jump into it, today's podcast is sponsored by Wattbike. Wattbike have been an amazing long-term partner of the podcast. We couldn't do what we do without them. To get 10% off your Wattbike, head on over to wattbike.com and use the code ROADMAN, ROADMAN, TEN. It's ROADMAN10. Sarah, business out of the way, and we're straight into the podcast.
This is why it's the greatest 3 weeks of the year, and I always feel like it's Christmas evening, the evening that the Tour de France starts. It was a brilliant, really interesting stage, loads going on. But what is going on with Ineos? Is that their last chance this tour?
Probably. If you were a betting man, you'd say more likely yes than no. Like, they still kind of have to protect Rodriguez. Where's the GC? Rodriguez is still, I don't think he slipped. I think he's still sixth on GC. Yeah, he's still sixth on GC. Sixth on GC, it's neither here nor there. Like, it's, top five, maybe you can make an argument for it. You can't really for Ineos. It's podium or nothing, and you'd almost say it's winning the Tour or nothing, but that's just become such a stretch for Ineos. It just doesn't seem possible that they'd win the Tour at the moment.
I read an article just as we were coming on air, and basically kind of outlined what this journalist felt was going on, but he opened up with the line. I thought it was brilliant. This article's in The Cyclist if anyone wants to go and check it out. 3 things in life used to be certain: death, taxes, and Team Sky winning the Tour de France. It was pretty true, wasn't it? They were so dominant for so long.
7 years.
Yeah, whoa.
7 years. 2012, Bradley Wiggins, Froome 13, 15, 16, 17, Geraint Thomas 18. We were there on Alpe d'Huez, and Egan Bernal, which looked like it was going to usher in a new era for cycling in 2019. What's gone wrong there? I don't know. Is it like any franchise? Is this the life cycle of a franchise? You've seen it at Man United, dominance through the 90s into early 2000s. Then you get institutional bloat and eventually the demise, and then a rebuilding process to start again. It feels like they're at peak bloat at the moment. There's in-house fighting. I know Netflix, you can't believe everything on that, and they've come out and said, look, it wasn't an accurate portrayal of the atmosphere inside the team. But Steve Cummings didn't go to the Tour de France this year. Steve Cummings is his technical title inside Ineos is director of racing, and he hasn't gone to the Tour de France. That tells you all is not well there. Pidcock, he's, for someone, we talked about this a few weeks ago or a few days ago, Pidcock, for someone so highly paid, just he doesn't deliver in the same way. You see Wout van Aert, Mathieu van der Poel deliver, and he doesn't seem like a team player. And for me, that looks like it could be one of the kind of apples that's poisoning the whole bunch in there.
Yeah, I agree. Another really interesting thing that happened was when Primož Roglič left Jumbo, as it was called back then, now just Lisa Bike, and he was looking for a new team. Apparently, Ineos offered him a lot of money, way more money than Bora were willing to pay him, and he still turned it down. So that's a very interesting take from someone on the inside who's like, oh, I'm not sure. You would think that anyone would jump at the opportunity to go and ride for a team like Ineos with their humongous budget.
The highest budget in pro
teams.
cycling.
Yeah, you would think that he would be jumping at that, but no, he actually went with Bora. So that in itself is really, really telling. In this article that I read, it did say that Sir Brailsford, who basically created Team Sky and marginal gains, he is now a director over all of the sports teams that Ineos have. So he's not just focused on cycling anymore, and he seemed to have moved into that role in 2021, and things kind of really started going downhill from there. And his lieutenant, which is a chap called Ellingworth, he was a founder of Team Sky. He basically left kind of in hush-hush circumstances.
Yeah, well, he went to Bahrain for a few years, and then I think he came back, and he's back again now at Ineos at the moment.
Yeah, but apparently he's still very, very frustrated because he doesn't feel like he has any autonomy to make decisions about the team. And he's just kind of, I think he's got one foot out the door, according to this journalist. So, yeah, ructions going on in Team Ineos at the moment.
They have a €55 million budget per year, which is the highest in cycling, more than UAE. And if you think about the stars that UAE have attracted, they seem to have gone down the route of trying to home grow riders. And they do have some amazing riders, like they've Josh Tarling and guys coming up like that who are exceptionally talented. They're not going to win them the Tour de France. The Tour de France is the barometer that you measure success against for the top teams. They don't have a rider there that's going to win them the Tour de France. I really like Carlos Rodriguez. Is he going to win you the Tour de France? Maybe if Jonas and Pogacar aren't around, and Remco. So no is the answer. He's not going to win the Tour de France, and he's not going to develop into that rider when those guys are there.
I think they were a bit unlucky with Geraint Bernal because they signed him, absolutely phenomenal rider. They signed him, and then he had that catastrophic crash and injuries that he's
lucky not to die.
No, exactly. Now he's back riding, and I think they did kind of really hitch their star to one rider there, as the up and coming, going to take over from Geraint Thomas. He's kind of the new kid in town. So they were a little bit unlucky like that, but it is disappointing to see them never there. They're just not there. And everyone loves Geraint Thomas. I don't think anyone dislikes him.
Geraint's quite a likeable figure in quite a dislikable team, I'd say.
Yeah, it's funny. I think maybe he's tied in with contracts or something, but I don't know, it'd be kind of cool to see Geraint go and ride for a different team as he's kind of coming towards the end of his career.
Up.
Is he done?
He's done.
Okay, right, okay.
So you won't see him again.
In other news overnight, great news for cycling fans and non-cycling fans, up-and-coming cycling fans and people who know nothing about cycling, where I was a couple of years ago. Unchained on Netflix is officially coming back for season 3.
So does that mean they're filming right now at the moment?
Yeah, they are. So I was at a wedding without Anthony a couple of weeks ago, and everybody knows that I'm very involved in cycling now, and everybody and their dog was coming up to me saying, "Oh my God, Unchained, it's brilliant. What do you think of Pogacar? What do you think of Remco?" So it's so exciting that other people are coming into the sport and starting to understand, getting a glimpse at how fascinating this sport is, but also a little bit of an insight as to how complicated it is, and somebody explaining it to them on a kind of a basic level. So I'm absolutely delighted that's back.
Today's stage, we had 179.5 scorching hot kilometres, temperatures tipping over 36 degrees at points, starting out in Gap, and we had 5 category 3 climbs finishing in Barcelona Eta. So the climbs today, we started out where we see most of the action, where we started watching this morning, Sarah. The Col de Fustrere, that was 13.8 kilometres, 4.3% gradient. And unlike yesterday, where we seen the 2.5 hours for this big 40-man group to develop yesterday, because it was largely flat roads, people are fatigued. But when you have the flat roads, it's like, oh, okay, it's my turn up to follow a move. It's my turn up to follow a move. And we just have this incessant attacking. And the breakaway just didn't go for like a full 2.5 hours yesterday. The Cat 3 climb at the start, it has a way of making people honest, because we have all the fatigue from yesterday's hard racing, plus a Cat 3 climb. So you could go into the stage with the best of intentions, I'm going to get into the break. But then once you get onto that climb, it's actually only people with legs that can go with the move. And we seen it was quite chaotic when it was forming.
Because you think here, you're looking at this and you're like, okay, Cat 3. So it's really the third categorization to explain to people of climbs. One being, it goes up, and then there's Or's category, which is unclassified, basically. That's the hardest. So
actually, do you know how they used to calculate that?
No, well, I think you told me this story a while ago.
So it was, I can't remember what car. It was a Fiat car.
I'm going to say Peugeot.
Maybe Peugeot, right. Someone will let us know in the comments. Yeah. But if you could drive up the car in third gear, it was a third category climb. If you could drive up in a second gear, it was a second category climb. If you had to go down to first to get up the climb, it was a first category climb. And if you couldn't get up the climb in your car, it became Or's category, beyond categorization climb.
I don't know. I that's like a bit of Tour de France lore. I would love if somebody kind of, commented and told us that's absolute bull, or if that's true. Because if it's true, that is one of the best stories ever.
So finishing out the rest of the climbs what we had in store today, we had the Col de Corps, that was 3.3 kilometre climb at 4.5%. The Côte de Coste 2.6 at 6%. The Col de Mans, 6.3 kilometers at 3.7%. They're all pretty tame in terms of percentage. The Côte de Saint Alapanaire at 7.9. That's 5.2% average grade. And then we had the Côte de Coffees, which we see in the really pivotal action. 6.4 kilometers long, 3.8 gradient. We seen Kwiato making his move over that. Ultimately, Carapaz getting across to him, and this ended up being the 3-man group that defined the stage today. It was pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, it was. It was really interesting.
Okay, we're going to jump in and talk about how it unfolded, but will we get our sponsor out of the way?
Let's do
first, because the podcast is also brought to you by Huel. I love Huel. I have it in my backpack whenever I go into town. I find it really hard to eat well when I'm on the move. So Huel's brilliant because I'm always trying to get my protein in. There's 22 grams of protein in a bottle of Huel, which means it's a better solution than just chowing down on croissants and sweets like I normally do when I'm in the city. They've 26 essential vitamins in it. They've a bunch of different flavors, 8 flavors. I think this one's iced coffee. It's really good. But you can check out Huel Ready To Drink if you go on over to huel.com/Roadman.
I'm a banana girl. Banana flavour.
Banana's good too.
Yeah.
Banana's good too.
Yeah. Okay, so it took a little while, explain to me, let's go back a little bit first, how the break actually went clear today, because this is something we're not seeing a lot of.
Most people don't tune in very early in the stage, and you're just going to pick it up with 50k to go, and you're like, oh, the break is there. You don't realise how traumatic it is getting into the break. Like, riders are getting spat out the back of the bunch. The bunch is fracturing. UAE are trying to figure out, it must be the most stressful part of the day for them. Maybe the final coming into bunch sprints, trying to keep Pogačar safe and that kind of 10k to the safe zone where it's 5k or 3k depending on the stage. But what they essentially have to do is figure out who's allowed into the break. And if somebody high on GC gets into the break, especially a big break, they need to close it down. So you'll see they'll have designated riders that are just going to close that down, and the break is not going to be allowed to go. So then a new break will attempt to form. They'll look at the composition of that break and they'll go, nah, we don't like that again, and they'll have to close it down. What baffles me sometimes is we've seen a big break going today. It's likely that a big break is going to take time. We've seen the Catalan putting a man into it, but there's guys have slipped into the break that are threatening on GC to we call it the race within the race, to the guys who are 10th, 9th, 8th on GC. And then as a result of them not properly manning and being vigilant at the start and letting this 35-man break go, with who was the threatening riders in it today? Guillaume Martin from Cofidis was definitely one of the big winners in the break, and Steph Kraus. So they ended up being in the break that took 14 plus minutes today.
And it's yeah, I think it was that big, which is crazy.
And it's catapulted them back up GC. Like, where are we at now? Like, Felix Gall's out with the top 10. Steph Cross is up to 12th, and Guillaume Martin has gone up to 13th. So,
but like, Felix Gall probably couldn't have ridden across to them, could he? I mean, maybe
no, Felix Gall's too high up. So Felix Gall tries to go on the break. UAE shut the break down.
Yeah, okay.
And they start again. But I think the point is you can't let someone like Guillaume Martin, if you're Israel Premier Tech with Derek G at 9th, you don't want that getting out to 15 minutes and then you're frantically having to chase. Now, look, the counterpoint to that is we're going into the high mountains tomorrow, and Guillaume Martin and Steph Cross are probably going to lose more time again. Yeah. So
they probably feel pretty safe that it's going to swing back the other way.
Yeah, it just feels like a dodgy game for a small amount of energy. Just don't let the break go and get 15 minutes and then frantically start riding with 15, 20k to go. Just stick a man up earlier. When it's at 8 minutes, stick a man up and just peg it and start bringing it in slowly. Like, you don't have to, commit the whole team on the front to close it down, but it seems a little bit of a bizarre way to go for me.
Yeah.
But it just goes for brute force, really, to answer your question, because people are fatigued. It's on the cat tree. Really, the strongest non-GC lads go clear. So we seen a 35-man group initially going clear with, like, Kwiato, former world champ Kwiatkowski from Ineos in it, Carapaz, yesterday's stage winner, first Ecuadorian ever to win a stage in the Tour de France, was there. Sure, he's nursed a bit of a hangover.
Do you reckon?
Nah, not a hope. Meant to be
Maybe
super professional. Geraint Thomas is talking on his podcast about how he's one of the most professional riders he's ever encountered.
Okay, he might have a sip of champagne or whatever, but that would be the most of it.
Yeah, exactly. Squeens was there for Trek. Lemon was there from Visma, another rider we're used to seeing up the road. Jay Hindley from Red Bull. Wout was there. Geraint was there. Healy was there. The US champion Quinn was there for EF. Lysenko for Movistar. Bling was there. Aaron Boru. Louis Menkes. It was a huge break. We can't name them all, but it was a big, big break. What was bizarre for me to watch when I was just tuning in, you kind of knew this break was going to go a long way to the finish. It was how Healy approached the race. It was
confusing.
On the second, third category climb, he attacks to split the break. I get that. That makes sense. A 35-man break, they're never going to cooperate too well together. That dynamic, it's just not super fluid. We talked yesterday about how, like in a 4-man group, everyone kind of rolling through and doing their bit. In a 35-man group, it's kind of chaos. Nobody's really too organised. I can see why Healy wanted to split it, because you have like Aaron Boru, Bling Matthews, wow, super fast finishers that you don't want to bring to the finish. So Healy tries to split it, but in the process gets himself dropped.
Yeah, he attacked a couple of times, like maybe twice, if not 3 times, and he just went for it. And then, as you said, got reined back in, and then just like basically like a lead balloon. I mean, within minutes he was back in the actual yellow jersey peloton, which were 12 minutes behind. I was like, Jesus, Ben is back there already.
Like, I don't understand how he's so badly in tune with his body to think, I'm on an amazing day, I'm on an amazing day, I'm on an amazing day, I'm on a terrible day. How is there nothing in the middle of that continuum going, oh, I don't feel great here, I maybe should conserve until closer to the final, and maybe I can be useful to Carapaz even if I'm not on the best day ever. It just seemed a bizarre detachment from reality to his perceived
legs.
Feelings.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Very, very strange. And maybe we'll get some comments from him and have them ready for everybody tomorrow, because we're completely in the dark, as were the commentators. Sean Kelly was just like, man, what are you doing? And Sean Kelly's a huge fan of Healy, but yeah, it was quite confusing.
I thought Kwiato looked brilliant all day. He hid the back of the break, didn't do too much. Carpenarts was similar, didn't do too much. He, confessed in the post-race interview that he kind of minded himself and acted a little bit like a great actor for long parts of the race. But Kwiato, for me, had the best legs for a long, long time. And I just think maybe in the final he didn't play it super smart, but he attacked over the top of the final Cat 3 climb. Super descender, one of the best in the world. Forced that little gap.
I know I spoke about, sorry to interrupt, Carapaz yesterday. Watching him descending was amazing, but this was like on another level again. The way he got his body, it just looked like a little small bullet.
Yeah, he was really impressive on it.
Really
And,
cool.
It forced Carapaz to show his hand, got across to him. And someone we didn't expect, direct energy rider Matteo Verche, didn't know anything about this kid, but he had his day in the limelight.
Yeah, this is his first year as a pro. So, I mean, what a day for him. He was, I won't give away the end, but yeah, quite emotional.
When we've seen Kwiato go, that forces people beyond their skill level. And Johansson went down from Uno X. It looked quite a fast one.
Yeah, I mean, we could only see it, the way the camera shot it, we just saw him sliding across the tarmac on a descent. Actually, he was lucky that where he came down, it was very close to a barrier with a sheer drop off at the other side. And, he gets up, X jersey is red and yellow, and like honestly it was entirely ripped on his shoulders, and his skin was the red colour of the jersey and then onto the yellow, like on brand. That road rash, that is a killer. I've had it once. I mean, it surely affects the rider for the next day, the day after, all of that kind of stuff.
Okay, you think about how fast he crashed there. I don't know the exact speed. I'm going to guess around 70 kilometers an hour he crashed. Think about what it's like to be driving your car at 70 kilometers an hour, basically naked because you're wearing skin tight clothing, and now jump out of your car at 70 kilometers an hour. Yeah. That's what these guys are doing for our entertainment. It is absolutely lethal. Like that road rash, we trivialize it with titles like it's just a collarbone breaker, it's just road rash. But he's had the skin like literally grated off his body. That's going to really hurt tonight. He's going to be taking painkillers. He's going to be stuck to the sheets. He's not going to sleep well. And then he's going into the Alps tomorrow to try and survive. It's miserable.
I had a crash about a year ago, got home, Anthony wasn't there. I had road rash all over my bottom and my leg, and I was looking in the mirror and I was like, oh yeah, I'm badass. Oh my God, I'm a cyclist now. This is so cool. Fast forward to an hour later when the adrenaline had like worn off and I had to scrub it in the shower, and that night didn't sleep a wink. Now it's absolutely awful. So I really felt for him because that looked really, really, really extreme.
Bactroban and Tegaderm, they're my two pro tips for dealing with road rash. Bactroban's like a antibiotic cream that you can put onto it that's really good for healing it, and Tegaderm's like a second skin that goes over it. Phenomenal.
Top tip.
Speaking of someone who's had a lot of road rash.
Top tip is
don't crash.
Don't crash.
So we seen the guys then cooperating quite well as a three-piece. Carpenarts, he's the former world hour record holder. Kwiato, former world champion, and then we have Matteo Verche from Direct Energy in there. Direct Energy already won a stage at this year's Tour de France. They won the gravel stage. What was that?
I think 9. I think stage 9, yeah.
Where we had Anthony Turgis winning that. But who would have thought in that three-piece that Ineos hadn't won a stage and Direct Energy were sprinting for potentially their second stage win of the Tour de France for such a low-budget team, who've also had all their bikes nicked earlier in the race.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was just looking that up. I think it was around the 11th, all of their bikes got stolen. So it's insane. But Carpenarts, you're going to talk about his position. He's kind of like the OG of aero, and he's one of the first guys who really geeked out on this stuff. Yeah,
he was like the best time trialist in the bunch for quite a long time. Like maybe, you know, Wiggins, Froome, these guys who were the big GC guys. But he was the best of the rest of the TT guys. Phenomenal, really pushed the bar on that, and then he kind of, when everyone else caught up with him, he brought that focus across the road and geeked out on aero on the road. And he has, you know, some bizarre choices. Doesn't wear sunglasses, he uses different socks to everyone else, but every detail is thought of for him. And I remember chatting to Jay Vine on the podcast, and it was, I'd obviously known this, but I never thought about it. Like, he would go out and ride specific, like, so you might go out and do an endurance ride, but he'll go out and do an endurance ride in his aero position. I was like, that's interesting. They spend so much time now because it closes off the diaphragm, it restricts the hip flexor angle, so they'll spend so much time in that aero road position to just get comfortable on it. So I remember this because I had a ride in Girona where it was like a J Vine GPX file. It was like a handy 2-hour Girona loop, and I went and rode it, and it was like a solid 3-hour ride. I looked at it because he'd averaged 38k an hour or something, even though he'd only done 240 watts. Whatever,
he was in the skis or whatever. But you know what I was reading today as well? That's interesting that you say that, because Pogacar, which you will notice when he's warming up and cooling down, is in the aero position, and his new coach has him doing that constantly now just to become more comfortable in that really awkward. You
spend a lot of time in the TT position if you want to get good at TTs.
Even after a normal stage when he hasn't been on skis, in aero position, on TT bike, etc., he's still warming up and cooling down on the TT bike in that position. It's kind of cool.
And I don't think it's the exact same, like biometrically, I don't think it's the exact same being in the skis on a TT bike and being in an aero position on your road bike, but it is similar because you're closing off the diaphragm on that hip flexor angle. So it definitely mimics it. Carpenarts, I'd say, is spending more specific time aero on his road bike rather than just being on his TT bike.
Yeah, because Pogacar is concentrating on the TT bike because that's what he wanted to focus on for the Tour de France. Okay, so we've got 3 out in the break now, and they're all looking at each other, aren't they? It's kind of hard. Are they cooperating perfectly? What's the dynamic of these 3 riders now? Because they need to ride because they don't want to get caught, okay? But they also are looking at each other going, I also want to win this.
Yeah, because you had the 5-man group forming behind with Squeens, Lemon from Lisa Bike, Hindley, former Giro winner, Neylands from Israel Premier Tech, and Lysenko. No idea why Lemon's in that group, and they haven't put Wout in that group. I don't know why he didn't go all in support of Wout, because ultimately he's in a group and kind of half riding and half not. He actually said he wanted to cooperate, but his legs were just empty, that it wasn't a tactical thing. He said he did want to cooperate, but he just couldn't.
I don't think I really trust that, because...
Well, he had no legs at the end. Like, he got basically dropped out of that group coming in.
Maybe he was on his radio the whole time getting advice from the car, and he kept looking back and stuff, so I'm not really sure that I completely trust that, but this is cycling.
Yeah, but I don't think Wout had legs either, to be honest, because I seen the quote from Wout after, and he said, it's a shame I missed that shot, but it was kind of on the limit on the top of the KOM. So it seems like, when Kwiato went, he went. Like, there was that didn't go softly. The three guys, I don't know if it's fair to say they're looking at each other, because they cooperated really well, and they pulled out that, you have the 25 or whatever's left in the main break. Then you have the 5-man group who are riding kind of okay together. Now, they're a bit more disjointed because Lemon is kind of sitting on, he's missing turns, and that just ruins the cohesion in a 5-man break. I thought the three of them cooperated super well. But there is a game of poker to be played up there. So you don't want to be the guy who's doing the most work in the 3-man group. And at a point, your relationship changes from, okay, we're in this, we want to get separation from the 5-man group behind, but then they get like 45 seconds and it's down to like 5k to go. Now that relationship changes from cooperative to combative. So now they're not friends anymore, they're enemies. So they still need to keep it rolling through because there's only 45 seconds behind, but you're trying to play a game to use a little bit less energy than your counterparts. And there is a little game of bluff here. You nearly need to be willing to lose the race in order to win the race. And for me, Kwiato is the only one that should have bluffed a little more. He's already won a Tour de France stage. We talked about it yesterday, the one Carapaz gifted to him. So Verscheer's obviously never had a chance at a Tour de France stage. It's a difficult bluff for him to pull because also coming second or third on the stage is a great result for him. So he is probably more motivated to keep this rolling. Carpenarts has previously won a Giro stage, but not a Tour stage. I felt like Kwiato could have bluffed it more and go, I already have a Tour stage. I'm starting to skip a few turns. Or Verscheer's hand should have been, lads, I'm empty. I can't do anymore. I want to help you. I can't do anymore. But we seen probably Carpenarts playing the best hand out of them.
Carpenarts should be on stage. I've never seen acting and face pulling and looking like he was in absolute throes of anxiety, pain, terror, loathing, looking for gels. His face, he had pain written all over it. He was really laying it on thick. He was putting on a little bit of salt and pepper onto his actual true feelings and emotions. He did actually say it at the end. I think why he got away with it is because he's a rider who's not really known for pulling tricks like that. So you pull it all out of the bag for Tour de France stage.
Looking at him, and not like I didn't get to see obviously up close these facial expressions and the hand gestures. Looking at the way they're pedaling, like what Shakira said, the hips don't lie. Like, he looked good. Kwiato looked good. I thought Verscheer is a Verscheer. Am I pronouncing his name wrong?
Verscheer.
Yeah, I think he was the one for me that looked like he was pretty swinging. And when he did attack, for me now, that's when Kwiato has to bluff. He has to bluff. Now, I know there's not much space for bluffing because he attacked at like 3:50 to go. But it's who blinks first at that moment. Kwiato closes down for sure. And in that moment, I think he's lost the sprint because there's not too much to separate. Carpenarts is a fast finisher. Kwiato's a fast finisher. So you're looking to stack the dice slightly more towards you if you can. And in that moment when Verscheer goes, they look at each other kind of briefly, who's going to close this? And Kwiato reacts. For me, that's when he loses it. And then secondly, even when Verscheer is caught, Kwiato continues to lead. I suppose he's a bit pot committed at that point, but he continues to ride on the front and lead it out. And he lets Carpenarts take that run on him from behind.
Yeah, so the Verscheer got on his wheel, and then Carpenarts had the very back wheel, which is kind of, you're sitting pretty, aren't you? Because
I actually didn't like that.
Did you not?
No, I didn't like that. If I was Carpenarts, I would have liked to slot in wheel 2 there. I wanted Kwiato's wheel because Verscheer's cooked. That was his Hail Mary. That was, his roll of the dice.
Yeah.
So when Kwiato opens the sprint, Verscheer's going to instantly get gapped. So now Carpenarts has to come around to close the gap, and he hasn't got the full benefit of that draft. So I would have liked to see him ideal in Kwiato's wheel. But the way it worked is he ended up really launching the sprint himself, and by sitting third wheel, he was able to lay back a little bit, generate a small bit of momentum, and go on the left. And he was just faster.
So that's the best way, in your opinion, to lay up a 3-man sprint like that?
You got to play to your strength, and your strength also is your Palmares. So it's a little bit of a bluff for the young lad from Direct Energy. He hadn't been there before. He didn't really have much of a card to play, but I think he should have gambled and played the, lads, I can't ride. I would if I could. I promise you, this is a big day for me. I would ride, I would help you if I could, but I just can't. Like, give me a break. This is such an amazing day for me. I'm doing everything I can here just to hang on. And if he plays that for 4 or 5K and then he launches, I think the young lad's a chance to win.
What's going on in the last 10 kilometers of that race? Like, okay, so the last kind of, I think it's like the last 10K is mainly false flat. And I'm always confused by that when people say false flat. What is a false flat? It's just a very
1%,
tiny
2%
incline.
uphill.
Yeah, it looks flat, but it's not flat.
If you film it or you look at it, it's like, oh, that looks pretty flat. And then you ride it and you're
it's
like,
not.
look at your power meter going, oh, this isn't flat.
Yeah. But anyway, in those last 10 kilometers, what do you think the DS is saying? Because they've got the earpieces. So what's the DS saying to all three of the riders at that stage? What's the communication like there?
Good DS is going to understand the riders. He's going to understand what motivates them. Maybe it's shutting up. You know, maybe it's going with someone like, you know, Carpenarts or Kwiato who've been there before. It's just shutting up and letting them do their thing because this is what they do and anything is going to distract them. But Carpenarts, we know he was 9 weeks at altitude. He has an amazing YouTube channel where he vlogs some of this experience, and I watched him pre-tour at altitude camp with his wife who was pregnant, and the sacrifices they made, like their whole life is transported to this tiny little apartment. He has a coffee machine beside his bed because he's no space in the kitchen for it. So maybe the director is saying to him at those moments, like, all the sacrifice, it's for this right now. I think they're also reminding them, if you look bad, like, you know, it's the third week of the Tour de France. You've been in the break all day. It's not just you that feels bad. Everyone feels bad here. But yeah, I think it's very individual.
Yeah, very individual. I know for me, I wouldn't want to hear anything in my ear. I just think that
I
would
would say Forza, Sarah.
Yeah,
Forza.
Anthony always shouts at me when he knows, tries to give me encouragement when he knows I'm suffering. I absolutely
What was
hate
the climb
it.
in Mallorca where it's like only 4K to the top or something? You lost your shit.
What is that climb? The one that goes
Saclabra.
And it was like I died the whole way up, and Anthony rolled back down to me, and he's like, "Only 2K to go," and I was like, "Oh my god, 2 whole kilometers! I'm gonna die."
It's like 100 meters.
Would you? What way would you like it in your ear? Do you think kind of motivational talk like that? Yeah, I think just shut up. That for me anyway. But okay, so we had a lot of reaction to the stage.
Yeah, actually, what was interesting before, I know you've loads that you want to go through quotes and stuff, but before you do, you might flash up, Carapaz's power data was interesting. Jonathan Waters up on Twitter put up his power data. Now, when you're looking at this power data, bear in mind that Carapaz is
tiny.
He's 62 kilograms.
Tiny, yeah.
So 1 minute and a 5:09. Like, you know what? Some of these powers, I can do them, but I'm 80 kilograms. And 62 kilograms, not 62 kilograms fresh, 62 kilograms in the third week of a Grand Tour. It's phenomenal. So the best way to look at these is to figure out the watts per kilogram based off his 62 kilograms and then multiply back for your watts per kilogram. And then you'll get an idea. Like for me to follow Carapaz at that, I'd have to ride a 500 watts for 20 minutes, which obviously is never going to happen. So I could maybe hold him for 1 minute. So it's a little bit of an insight into how rare 1% of the 1% these guys are. Phenomenal numbers.
Yeah, they're just beast. I always say beast mode. Okay, so after the race and the stage win, if you haven't seen the interview with Carpenarts on Eurosport, or you'll get it on Twitter, please, I implore you to go and watch it. It was super emotional. First of all, he came over the line, and the first thing he did was FaceTime his girlfriend, who literally just had a baby. And that was, I think everyone was welling up even looking at that, because as you were speaking about a few minutes earlier, just the sacrifices that these families make so the riders can go and, you know, perform at these massively high stages and these extremes. So basically he tweeted, "Winning a stage in the Tour de France is everybody's dream. In December, I said, stage 18 is the only stage I see an opportunity for me to win." So back in December, he had his crosshairs on stage 18. And I'm sure he has spent the last 6-7 months visualizing this win.
And training specifically for those moments.
Exactly. Oh, It's just given me goosebumps. He went on to say, the support I have from my girlfriend is incredible. She gave birth to our son at the bottom of the climb in Granada. She is the hero in this story. I will be leaving the team, but I'm so happy that we can finish off with this highlight of my career. I have a bright future now in cycling. I became a father and it's all blue skies, only blue skies. And he did also give a very honest interview, said that last year his contract was very much in jeopardy with his team, and there was a lot of over and back for him to re-sign, and he was just happy that he had this opportunity. And he did also comment that he said, I maybe played it a bit dirty and tried to show everyone that I was suffering so I wouldn't have to do long turns. So at least he owned up to that. And just a final comment then from Kwiatkowski. He has a nickname in the peloton.
It's just Kwiato.
Kwiato, yeah. So just in case people are getting confused that we're talking about two people. He said, a tough final result to swallow. I gave 100%. It was one of those days where Latour crushes your emotions. An old man crying like a baby. But congratulations to Victor Campenaerts. That was lovely words.
So today finished up, as Sarah said, Victor Campenaerts with the win, 4 hours and 10. The podium was Matteo Verche. What a performance from him, total energy. Kwiatkowski, third place, Ineos best result, I think, so far this tour. Lawrence de Plus, I think, got 60 yesterday. Tom Squeens was best of the rest in fourth. And Lasenko from Movistar was fifth. That's leaving GC unchanged with Tadej Pogacar still leading at 74 hours and 45 minutes he's been pedaling his bike for, and he's covered the course so far 3 minutes and 11 seconds faster than Jonas Vingegaard. Remco still holding strong on the podium, 5:09. Almeida, Mikel Landa, Rodriguez, Yates, Ciccone, Derek G and Batrago tops out your top 10. The points, looks like a lock still. Biniam Garmet 387, Jasper Philipsen 354, Brian Concard in third place, but he's way back. Mountains, again, it's Tadej, Jonas and Remco dominating all of that.
So what about tomorrow's stage?
Tomorrow we're going into the horse category. You wouldn't even drive up them in a car.
In a Renault.
Yeah, in a Renault Espace.
Go to get up there.
So the climbs are rough tomorrow. So we have the sprint point is early. It's after 21 kilometers, so that will be contested by the Jasper and Beanie again. Then we have the Col de Vars. It's 18.8 kilometers long at 5.7 grade. It's a horse category. It's relatively early in the stage, 36k into the stage, and it's going to set the tone for a really difficult day. We might see a big breakaway, but honestly, I think we're going to see Poggy striking out again. And he's been Armstrong talked about on the Move podcast yesterday that this isn't a bike race. This is a political event. And Tour de France is the only show in town for a lot of these teams. So you have teams that have multiple sponsors and they're bringing all the founders of these companies that sponsor them over to the race. And they're saying to them, like, here's what your money has got you. We want you to re-sign for next year. And the teams are getting nothing out of it. The teams are, because Poggy's cleaning up. He said, you're not going to win friends in the peloton with other teams on this. You're not going to win friends with the directors. You're not going to win friends with the sponsors. He thinks it's time to share the love. Also, he said, when you just keep doing that, when you're so ruthless, it just brings up question after question. Like we had the rebreather questions on the carbon yesterday. For me, there's no indication that Poggy's doing anything dirty, but it keeps fueling that speculation.
The tone online and in all the publications has changed. It's tipped over into these conversations that everyone wants to have about being clean, doping, how's he doing it. So yeah, I totally see where Lance is coming from with regards to look, Poggy, I mean, can you imagine telling Lance that back in his year as well to rein it in?
No, he did rein it in. There was much more of that. Even at the top of climbs, very famously gave Pantani the win when the two of them came up to climb together. And, there was a big spot about that. Pantani, in the end, I don't accept gifts, but he gifted him the stage, even though he was on a rival team. Very good for, obviously, many ways you could criticize him, but very good for understanding the economics of the sport and spreading those wins around. But anyway, back to tomorrow's stage. The second climb, the Cima de Bonnet, is 22.9 kilometers long. It's another horse category, and it is the Cima Coppi in this year's Tour de France. It's the highest point at 2,800 meters. Significant parts of tomorrow's stage are above 2,000 meters. Historically, that has been kryptonite for Pogačar. I don't anticipate it this time. But the Bonnet has steep pitches. You know, the final kilometer, I think, is at over 11%, so it's super steep. And then we have the Isla 2000 to finish off. It's a first category climb. It's 16.1 kilometers long, 7.1%, and it leads up to the Isla 2000 ski station. Again, large chunks of that are over 2,000 meters. It's going to be a battle. If
amazing.
Jonas is going to do anything, it has to be tomorrow. If Remco is going to jump from third to second, it has to be tomorrow. These are the days now. Tomorrow and the following day are the two big days in this year's Tour de France for movement on the podium.
Can't wait.
It's going to be exciting. Folks, thank you for tuning in to another Tour de France reaction show. We're going to be back again tomorrow and every day for the remainder of the Tour de France. So do me one favor, make sure you hit the subscribe button down there so you don't miss any of our upcoming live broadcasts. And there's another video up here which I think you'll enjoy if you can't get enough of us.